I'm not seeing anybody raise their hands, so I'll call that question.
In favor.
Councillor Berg in favor.
Great, and that motion carries. And Mr. Irby, I don't know if everybody knows you.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Over the last year, administration saw a significant uptake in grant applications in many areas, while others are still recovering post-pandemic. Out of the $40,000 allocated for sport hosting in 2022, we utilized $25,000, leaving $15,000 remaining, with the recommendation to carry over this amount into 2023. 2021 festival funding was also undersubscribed during the pandemic, and we had reallocated $40,000 to 2022. Out of this amount, we do still have some funds remaining, so it's recommended that $25,000 of those funds also be allocated to sport hosting in 2023. And over the last year, administration has been working with neighborhood associations to rebuild. It has been challenging for them to recruit volunteers, but we did have 10 associations that received new banners for their neighborhood, and they were very well received. So the recommendation there is to reallocate $30,000 of remaining funds for neighborhood associations to 2023, and that would support further banner installations for 2023 for other neighborhoods, as well as other community building initiatives. So administration is recommending the 3 motions to reallocate funds as outlined in the report.
Great, excellent. Mr. Berg, then Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bressie. So my question again is around the $30,000 in neighborhood association funding. You'd mentioned banners. Can you elaborate on what community building options or ideas might be out there?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Bressie. So we did do a larger Neighbor Day event at the Activity Center this year that we hadn't done in previous years. And we've also been working with those neighborhoods that don't have an association in place yet to try to find other ways to support them without being able to actually transfer funds to an association that doesn't exist. So we're working with them to try to find other ways to support their community building without being a society.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Mayor Clayton.
Sorry. Thanks, Chair Bressie. Question for administration. You mentioned money that would be moved over from sport hosting event opportunities to 2023. I had a question, and if you don't know the answer right now, please feel free to get back to us. But in regards to whether or not schools could qualify for that, I was thinking, if we were to encourage high schools to host boys and girls 3A or 4A volleyball provincials or basketball or whatever that may look like.
So Mayor Clayton broke up, but Ms. Bieberdorf, it looked like he got a light bulb at some point there. So.
Yeah, thank you. So right now we have
Those
the criteria.
groups apply for funding and facilitate in different provincial type events.
Got it. Thank you. So right now the criteria just says nonprofit associations, so we would just have to amend the criteria in order to accept schools.
Perfect. So if I can, Chair Bressie, just have a question on that. Do you need formalized change to the policy in regards to that, or would committee's recommendation of if a group came forward, such as a high school group, getting approved at committee level be enough?
Thank you. We would need a motion to amend the policy procedure.
So you would not?
We would.
You would? Okay. Mayor.
Okay, so I don't know what the group is. Yeah, I mean, my intent is that I think there are significant opportunities at high school level competition. We have incredible facilities, and we've all talked as a council that we know the road goes both ways, and I think it would be a great opportunity for us to host. So I'm happy to bring this back to the next standing committee, but that is my intent at that point. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor O'Connor, do you have a question, or are you going to make the motion?
I was going to make the motion, but if we could hold that first one off, I won't move that if Mayor Clayton wants to bring that to discussion at a future date.
Awesome. Councillor Blackmore.
Whoa.
Finally, it happened. I believe, although schools cannot produce tax receipts, they actually are nonprofit organizations. So I think by law, they already fit that criteria. We might want to check that before we go further.
Great. Well, and I think if we bring this to committee next time, administration can be prepared to answer that. Ms. Bieberdorf?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add too that we can take this back through the Community Advisory Committee as well. And that's typically been our process with amending grant criteria, so we can take it back to them and do some further research on it.
Great. Councillor O'Connor?
So you'd be okay with eliminating the first one for now and then pushing the other ones forward?
I think we can still move it.
Can move it?
Yeah.
Okay. I will move committee recommend council approve the reallocation of 2022 approved funds as follows: $15,000 in 2022 sport hosting funding to be used for sport hosting funding in 2023. To move $25,000 in arts development festival funding to be used for sport hosting funding in 2023, and $30,000 in neighborhood association funding to be used for community building opportunities in 2023. Thank you.
Excellent. Any conversation or debate on that? Then I'll call that to question.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Bieberdorf. And then that brings us to item 4.3. Oh, sorry, I'm getting reminded that we skipped 4.1. So, Mr. New, 4.1, if you've got a brief service area update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll try and keep this relatively brief. So in terms of community social development, Youth Advisory Council recommendations are coming forward for appointment on December the 12th. And enforcement services, our officers have been fully engaged in transportation snow removal strategy, as you heard earlier today, and officers have issued over 200 parking violations for vehicles that remain parked on roadways, which has greatly enhanced the efficiency of the operations on snow removal, so we're really happy about that. We had a couple officers, Officers Charbonneau and Hoffman, took part in the first AMA Patrollers Party that has been held in almost 3 years. So patrollers, community referred to as crossing guards, teach and encourage crosswalk safety within school zones. So they recognized some of those, and awards were handed out by our officers to several of those participants. Best Bar None awards were presented recently with members of enforcement services. Ross Gear, Mike Lefebvre, and Wendy Hughes were representing the city at that event. And with regards to the fire department, currently conducting annual pump tests on all of our fire trucks to ensure all engines meet operating standards. Regards to the RCMP, they have had a number of real successful arrests due to the work of the Crime Prevention Unit. On November 3rd, officers within the unit conducted a traffic stop with a vehicle traveling on 100th Street near 113th Avenue. Further investigation led to the arrest of 2 occupants for a drug investigation, and vehicle was searched with a number of items being confiscated. A number of violations for those 2 individuals were undertaken. And on November 5th, officers from the Crime Reduction Unit located a silver Dodge flat deck truck that was suspected of being involved in multiple criminal occurrences in the Fort St. John and Dawson Creek areas, including ramming a police vehicle and fleeing from police. So they attempted a traffic stop. The vehicle fled from the police, and the occupants were eventually abandoned the vehicle and were subsequently arrested. Further investigation determined that the vehicle had been stolen from the Wembley area in August 2022, and several charges. These 2 individuals are facing several charges. Just one more. On November 18th, 2022, an officer with the Crime Reduction Unit located a stolen vehicle parked at a residence in the Pinnacle area. A female who was observed returning to the vehicle was placed under arrest, and a search warrant was executed on the residence, and several items were stolen items were located. A resident of Grande Prairie was charged with a number of violations. And the Community and Engagement Diversity Unit from the RCMP completed some safety planning with 2 schools, 5 RCMP town halls with city residents, fraud prevention at Wild Rose Manor, a presentation to the Lifelong Learning Center, and attended drug treatment court. Community Knowledge Campus, so we're continuing with our 10th anniversary celebrations and membership sales. And the Grande Prairie Museum, the Mother Earth Boreal Beauty of the Peace Country exhibit featuring photos from Sharon Krishnal's book by the same name was launched on December the 3rd. And with regards to transit, quickly, administration will be surveying on-demand riders to gather their thoughts on the service in January 2023. And so far, very positive feedback regarding the new schedules from both drivers and passengers. And that's my report, unless there are any questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Blackmore.
I've just noticed, Director Lemieux, that when I'm at the Eastlink Centre, so are a lot of other people. I'm wondering how our membership is doing there, if it's increasing, and if you don't have numbers now, a couple of weeks from now would be fine as well.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Councillor Blackmore. So through the chair, we have seen a significant increase. We're very pleased with the progress that we're making. I'm not going to throw a number at you, but certainly it's significant. It's something that will be reported back to council early in the new year.
Excellent. I'm not seeing anything up, any other hands go up. So, Mr. Taz, I think after a very long wait, you can come present. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Well, we've been on a journey here to establish the first municipal historic resource for the city. We have completed the last stage, which was to release the notice of intention to designate the old Grande Prairie Courthouse, the Center of Creative Arts Center today. And we have passed the minimal 60-day waiting period, which was on December the 3rd. The notice went out on October 3rd. There was, on the city website, there was a community engagement link that people could use, and we did have some feedback. We had one for the designation, just one against, and at this time, we'd ask that council look at giving the 3 readings to Bylaw C-1454 to designate the Grande Prairie Courthouse as a municipal historic resource.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? Is there, Councillor Berg?
Yeah, no questions. I'd just like to make a motion that committee recommend council give 3 readings to Bylaw C-1454 to designate the Grande Prairie Courthouse, built in 1957, as a municipal historic resource as presented. And just to speak to this, years ago, I sat on the Sexsmith Museum Society for about 10 years. And one of the things that I noticed is that our neighbors around us, be it the county and the town of Sexsmith, have a number of historic buildings designated as a resource. If I'm correct, Charles, we've got 2. This will be our 3rd, but we're still lagging behind, yet we're the regional center with so many terrific buildings. And one of the things, I believe most of these other buildings that are potentially historic resources are primarily privately held. So the city's taking a leadership role in this to show an established process that we've done it, so we could better advise these other building owners on the process and the value behind it. So this is something I'm excited about and want to move forward.
Excellent. I do have just one question before we vote on the motion. You said you had 1 opposed. Was there reasoning provided for the person that opposed?
Being built in its place to create a bigger, larger art center.
Sure. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions or debate? I will call the call to question then.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
Excellent. And that motion carries. Thank you. And that brings us to item 4.4, Enforcement Services Update with Mr. Lefebvre.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. During this time, Enforcement Services partnered with the RCMP Mobile Outreach Program and conducted enhanced patrols in the Muskseepee Park. enforcement services was expanded by 8 individuals with the creation of the public security unit, which now works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their focus is the downtown core and areas of concern. The goal of these patrols is to dissuade illegal activity and function as a component of protective and social services coordinated effort to connect the vulnerable street engaged population with appropriate supports within the community. During this time, enforcement services received 96 dispatches for loitering, 103 dispatch for lawful camps, 32 dispatches for public intoxication, and 115 for trespassing. During the same time, the public security unit had 182 incidents resulting in a removal of person for trespassing, 5 incidents resulting in a new and being banned, 3 incidents resulting in an arrest, and 21 incidents involving encampments. During this time, enforcement also participated in various mini community engagement. For example, the Conversation Cafe, patrols, the Street Festival, positive ticket program, and the others mentioned in the report. When looking at the statistics, you can see that for the same third quarter last year, approximately 8 or higher, 4 or less. But of those, there's approximately 7 which are within 100 in terms of numbers of one another, so fairly close. Of our highest increase was the provincial offenses, and I think some of that can be attributed to the Safe City Roads program, which was implemented and started again in July of this year. This concludes my report.
Excellent. Are there any questions? One question I've got is there were new requirements for marking of photo enforcement on December 1st, and I've heard some in the community think that a full wrap is required. We're only seeing signs on vehicles. Could we just verify that our contractor is meeting the new provincial requirements?
Yes, they are. The requirement is either a full wrap or the signs, which they have gone with the signs, so front and back of the vehicle. Those yellow signs, the dimensions and so on, is regulated by the province, and they are abiding by that regulation.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Thiessen.
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to actually compliment them on it. I haven't received as many complaints about our automated photo radar, but I have seen them lots all over the city over the last three months, and almost every time I've seen them, probably at least 80% of the times I see the trucks, the yellow sign that they have says drive safe, and the second you see that sign, you start slowing down or you check your speedometer. So thanks for marking those up, and good job. It's nice to see some of those offenses go down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Just going to look at our secretary. Do we need to receive this for information, or do we usually just, all right, awesome. Well, then I will thank you for your report and move on to Ms. Frizzell for mobile outreach program.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. So a few highlights for mobile outreach for the third quarter here. Mobile outreach participated in a couple of community events, including the National Overdose Awareness Day, Recovery Day, and the Point in Time Count. And for those of you who aren't aware of what the Point in Time Count is, we went around and we conducted surveys with individuals who are sleeping rough in the community to really evaluate the state of homelessness that we see here in Grande Prairie. And for our Street Outreach Center, we finally have relocated our caseworkers to the top floor of the Street Outreach Center. So they're working out of there Monday to Friday from 7 to 5. And a couple of projects that we had worked on included an outcomes reporting for our caseworkers to really highlight the client's successes that we're seeing through connecting with our caseworkers and getting those things completed to be eligible for housing first, so including like ID, bank accounts, financial supports, mental health and addiction supports, and things of that nature. And then we have also updated our RAC cards, which we're still waiting to receive, and we will distribute to community as well once we get those. Below you'll see our statistics as well, and the only new addition to our statistics report would include those caseworker outcomes. And I will leave the floor open for any questions.
Great. Thank you. Are there any questions? All right. Oh, sorry. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chelsea, for coming. Thank you, Chair. What are you seeing as far as the number of clients? I see an increase in new faces. What is that attributed to, do you think?
Thank you, through the chair. So new faces, we really try to engage in any new faces that we're seeing in Grande Prairie, and they're often coming from correction services, hospital discharges, treatment or detox discharges as well. So it could be service access. Maybe they're coming here for service access. We also hear a lot that they come here for work or to stay with family and things don't work out, and then they end up experiencing homelessness.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for the report. And that brings us to Mr. Buchanan, Mr. King. Thank you for your waiting for us.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'll just give some highlights from our last quarter with respect to Grande Prairie Municipal RCMP. In addition to the package that was provided earlier, I'll just provide some additional highlights with respect to our priorities. As noted, we have 4 priorities, which include enhancing engagement and communication with the community. So year to date, excuse me, we have, in the last quarter, we completed 22 community consultations and engagements. In addition, in conjunction with our engagement strategy, as well as our crime reduction and community safety priority, we've completed 143 downtown foot patrols so far in 2022. In addition to 424 proactive patrols of Wapiti and St. Lawrence Center, and 67. We've also completed 67 media releases in addition to our monthly newsletters to the community. With respect to our equity, diversity, and inclusion priority, our focusing specifically our community engagement diversity unit have been key with engaging with various organizations, including the Grande Prairie Local Immigration Partnership, Grande Prairie Cultural Integration Academy, as well as other cultural and religious groups in the community as well. So overall, I can just give a bit of an update in terms of stats. So in your package, you have the statistics for the previous quarter and pretty much the previous quarter only. So I can give you some updated year-to-date stats if you like as well. So we're talking the period of January through October 2022, compared that to the same time period through 2018. So right now, if we compare year-to-date 2022 with 2021, we're seeing about an 8% increase in persons crimes. That holds true for the 5-year comparison as well. Over to property crime, comparing this point in time, 2022 to 2021, we've seen about a 12% increase overall with respect to property crime, and an overall 1% reduction when we're looking at the 5-year time period overall. In addition, we're seeing about a 3% increase in the other criminal code categories. So that'd be things like our offensive weapons, causing a disturbance, fail to comply with conditions, breaches of various court orders, that type of thing. But overall, when we're comparing that to 2018, for example, over the 5-year time period, we're seeing about a 20% reduction overall. So for our total criminal code count, we're seeing at about a 9% increase compared to last year, and about a 5% decrease over the last 5 years overall. So just some up-to-date statistics that are in addition to the Q2 ones provided in your package. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Excellent. Thank you for the report. Any questions? Something I'm curious about is thank you to you and your staff for making yourselves available to the public through your town halls. I'm just curious how those went and what you heard at those.
I think overall they went fairly well. We hosted 5 town halls over the period of a week there at the the middle to the end of November. Overall, for those who attended, I think we received fairly positive feedback. We've got some key takeaways. We're going to take all the information that we generated through those town halls, kind of condense it, identify some key themes, and then roll that into our process for developing our policing priorities for the next year, just to make sure that that our priorities really are reflective of the community needs and wants, in addition to the feedback from council and MPAC as well. But some of the things that are highlighted is just kind of that key theme that we saw last year as well is people want to hear from us. We want to make sure that we're getting our message out right in the right formats, the right times, to the right people, all that kind of stuff, right? So, and that communication may vary depending on audience as well. But and then in addition to that, continuing to enhance our crime reduction strategy overall. I think that's something that's going to carry on. Year to year, the initiatives might change, but overall, the overall goal of reducing crime is something that we're continuing on as well. So,
excellent, thank you, Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah, I was just concerned with all the kids not going to school and stuff. How is your staff maintaining? Have they been sick with the flu or anything like that?
In terms of illness-related absences, we're not seeing a significant amount. I'll turn to my colleague, Inspector King,
Okay, I'll knock on wood for you.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, we're able to meet our resourcing commitments for sure for the frontline watches, yeah.
Great. Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Thank you again, gentlemen, for the town halls. I attended one, great information, great interaction. So thank you around that. But of course, I only attended one versus 5. You'd mentioned takeaways. Was there a common theme or concern that kept coming up across the board?
Nothing specifically. I think it kind of, and Inspector King may have some additional thoughts that maybe I don't, but I think a lot of the feedback that we heard is, people want to hear from us. We want to make sure that we're getting our message out. I think the community is appreciative, and this is what we heard from various individuals, business owners. They're appreciative of the proactive patrols that we've been conducting, and so we want to see that continue as well. There was some discussions about, management of mental health related crises and the use of our police and crisis team resources in that regard as well. So definitely something that we want to, continue to go down and enhance where we can. But overall, positive conversations that we had and heard from the community. A lot of community support out there for us as well. But in addition, overall, I think, those were some of the key takeaways. Obviously, there are things like, drug type of offenses and stuff that we're aware of through our stats, but also that the community is seeing too. So we did speak about some various property crime, vehicle thefts, that type of stuff too.
Great, thanks, gentlemen.
Great. Any other questions? I also saw that one of your members managed to apprehend a green furry prolific offender in our downtown core over the weekend. So I hope the courts have your back and you keep him off the streets. That would be very helpful to our downtown, I think.
Absolutely. No, we're let's see what we can do there.
Yeah, Today FM covered that if you want to check it out. Anyways, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the report and appreciate the work of you and your members.
Thank you.
And last up on our agenda, I will turn it over to Councillor O'Connor for a topic that he referred to this agenda.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bressie. Councillors Palat, Councillor Bressie, and myself went to the Family Education Society, and there we talked to staff of what are they seeing, some of the impacts that they're feeling, and barriers that their residents are feeling. And one of 4 different issues, the only one I'm going to speak about today, is about AISH bus passes. And the reason I'm bringing this up, and their families, is that the amount of income that persons that are on AISH is not enough for them with. And if we're talking about quality of life issues, we're talking about what it costs for them for electrical, for everything. All the costs are going up, but they're not, and they're having a tough time. So I really think that we should, and I'd like to recommend that administration look at bringing back what the financial impact would be if we're to look at issuing AISH bus passes and for their dependents. So I'd really like the rest of council to support this.
Great. So maybe we'll get a motion on the table. Before I do that, I do see Mr. Harvard here. We gave him were you hoping to share some information, or are you just here in case we have questions for you?
Chair Bressie, both. I do have some information to share in terms of comparables, how Grande Prairie compares to other communities in Alberta, which if you wish I can share, or if you wish to make a motion, I can include that into whatever report.
Yeah, I think maybe I'd suggest we make a motion and that can come back to us another time, because I think you're probably going to get a motion coming out of this no matter what. So may as well save that information for next time.
Yeah. I'd like to move that we have administration bring back a report that looks at AISH bus passes and for their dependents to come forward and what the impact on the budget would be.
Great.
I'm looking for any amendments, whatever.
Great. I see we're working on the wording of that motion, so I'll ask you to look and describe it in a minute, just to make sure the wording captures what you wanted. But in the meantime, I'll turn to Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. My question's more, I guess, specific about an age group. I appreciate where we were going with the AISH perspective, but I'm just wondering if we have data that would show what sort of revenue loss we would have if we didn't charge for bus fees for 14 and under. And more specifically at an age group, not specifically around just AISH. Can appreciate they tend to fall through the cracks. I'm just wondering if we have that level of information that we'd be able to know, if we said zero fees for 14 and under, what the implications of that financially would be, or not.
So maybe I'll look to Mr. Harbour, just ask, is that information that would be, how burdensome would getting a guesstimate like that be for you?
Through the chair, because of the categories that we currently have, that is how we collect our data. So easy enough for us to give you a specific number for AISH, but because our age category is a bit broader than 14, it would be problematic to try to say how many of those students under the age of 16 are actually under the age of 14.
Is it possible, sorry if I just may follow up, is it possible just to bring back what the implications would be 16 and under then, if that's the category that we have data around?
Through the chair, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I see Councillor Blackmore.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bressie. I just need some follow-up information. I believe that people on AISH pensions now currently don't pay for bus passes. But I don't know if that's old information or is still current.
Mr. Harvard?
Through the chair, currently AISH recipients pay $10 a month for their bus passes.
I think the challenge that was brought up to us was that their dependents don't receive that same benefit.
Okay, and the $10 a month, you would be able to tell us how many AISH pensioners that would affect if we dropped it to zero? Because obviously you're selling them, you'd know how many people that would affect.
Through the chair, absolutely, yes.
So maybe Councillor O'Connor, I'm looking at the wording here, and if you'd be open to a friendly amendment based on what Councillor Palat said, subsidized bus passes for dependents of AISH recipients and children under 16. Would you be okay asking for both those pieces of information?
I'd be most happy to take that.
Great, and then we can decide if we want to bite off one or both or none of them when we get that information. Any other, Councillor Blackmore?
As I mull this through my mind, I'm also curious about how we're going to define dependent. Are we looking at someone who needs to bring someone with them because they need that support in order to get to their appointment, or are we talking about their children? I'm just not clear about what Councillor O'Connor means by dependent.
Councillor O'Connor?
That's a very good question. It was identified as an issue at Family Services. So I think it's important that we take a look at that. So I think if you could define or find out that information in regards to what a dependent is and whether or not this is someone to help them get around and go to appointments. I know that sounds a little complicated, but I don't know how else you'd gather that information.
Yeah. And so I guess it would just be trusting administration to put good definitions in that report when they're ready, so we know what they're talking about. Mr. Harvard, do you feel that you've got the information to return what committee's hoping for if this motion passes?
Yes, I do, Chair Bressie.
Great. Excellent. Any other conversation or debate on this motion? Great. Well, then I will call it to question.
Councillor O'Connor in favor.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
That motion carries. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. And then that brings us to the outstanding items list. And now that it's Mr. Manny on the chair, I promised Mr. Lemieux that we'd ask some really hard technical questions. So get thinking about them.
Well, I can give you some hard answers too, but in regard to the outstanding items list, certainly there's been a number of additions that were referrals from the budget cycle. So those have been added to the list. I know Ms. Hughes has been diligently chasing after identifying who would be responsible for those. I think in large part she's covered that off now. There's a couple that don't appear updated on the list I have in front of me, but I know this week she put dates next to all those, and with the majority that coming back in Q1, some of them in Q2 of 2023. But I don't see anything coming off the list, so it looks like Mr. Lemieux's got a fairly lengthy list to manage.
Great. Thank you. And yeah, I would note it's a lengthy list, so I supported the motion today, but maybe committee, we should be cognizant of anything we add to this list over the next couple months. It's becoming unmanageable.
Yes, I would move that we accept this report as presented.
Great. Any conversation, debate on that? Then I will call that to question, and Chair Bressy is in favor.
O'Connor's in favor.
Mayor Clayton, how do you vote?
Mayor Clayton in favor.
Excellent. Thank you. And that motion carries. And with that, I think I could call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.